Hi Martha, it's wonderful to have you here in Madrid.
It is so great to be back. It's great to be back in Madrid. It's great to be back at ASIC.
And it's especially wonderful to have you here at our home in Issy.
It's wonderful.
Terrific. Let's talk for a moment on one of the things you have dedicated the last 20 years to, even long before the word existed, customer experience management. What do you, in your opinion, are the challenges that companies face if they really want to start taking seriously their customers' experience along all the touch points they have with a company or a brand?
That's the challenge, is to try to make sure that they do it along all the touch points and all the pieces of the organization. And look, there are some very well-run, product-oriented companies. But the challenge that they have is that they are constantly trying to find customers for the products that they have, and they are therefore eventually going to be competing on price. Whereas the companies that have customers and use all the new technologies to figure out how to find the next right customer for the next right product for those customers are the ones that are really going to be successful as we're moving forward. So when you look at what the challenges are for those companies, well, first of all, they have to do things differently from the way we've always done them. And second, they have to think about putting the customer first. And third, they have to think about their own organization in a different way. So in any organization, we have people who manage the sales regions, and we have people who manage the bank branches, and we have people who manage the accounting department, and we have people who manage the web design, we have people who manage the lunchroom, and we have people who manage HR, and we have people who manage all the moving cogs in the machinery of the organization. But what's important is something that a lot of companies don't have, and that is somebody who's going to manage the relationship with the experience of the customers who are our only source of revenue. Because here's a newsflash, products don't pay us any revenue, brands don't pay us any revenue, the best employees in the whole world don't pay us revenue, only customers by definition pay us revenue. And if that's the case, then while we're busy managing marketing, we're busy managing finance, and we're busy managing all the other pieces of the business, shouldn't we be managing what it's like for those customers?
That is so true. Would you agree with the saying, I think it's literally by David Packard, that marketing is far too important to leave in the hands of the marketing department?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I love marketers. Oh, that's right, I am one. But the fact is that I think that what we have to realize, and the very best companies are the ones who actually recognize that marketing is something that everybody has to do, because if marketing is about customers, and customers are our only source of revenue, then who at the company doesn't have the responsibility of making things better? So we've seen a lot of companies, for example, using the Net Promoter Score as a measure that affects everybody's performance bonus or something like that. So here are the people in finance saying, well, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't close that call center just to save a few bucks this quarter, because that might have an effect on the Net Promoter Score, and that would be bad for my bonus. And so all of a sudden you see companies starting to think differently because that marketing component or the customer experience component now permeates all parts of the organization.
What effect does all that have on brands?
Yeah, brands. It's interesting about brands, because brands will always be an important part of what we're doing. In fact, way back about 1.2 million years ago, I myself was an advertising copywriter. And so that means that, yes, I was committing mass marketing back in those days. But, back in those days, it was all about branding, it was all about advertising, and marketing meant branding and advertising. And these days, I think that when we talk about branding, we're really talking about something else. We're talking about something more than the logo and the pretty pictures and that sort of stuff. We're really talking about a sort of confidence or trust or relevance or something else, and that's kind of a bigger job for a brand to do. So it certainly is an image, it certainly is an icon, but there is a big difference between a brand and a customer relationship, or even a brand and a customer experience. Because a brand, if we do our job right, is something that we can set up on high, and it will stand for something, and it will be crisp and beautiful up there. And really, customers don't affect it very much. But that's quite different from what happens in a customer experience, which is, if it works right, it's interactive, the experience is going to be told over and over and over again through interconnected social media. And so customers have a lot of effect on the customer experience and the customer relationship. They have a lot of power over that. So there's a difference between this idea of branding, which will always be important, because after all, it's no fun for me to buy a really great pair of blue jeans if you don't appreciate how really cool they are. So it's not just important for me, the buyer, to know how great that brand is. It's important for all my friends to know how great that brand is, even if they never buy it. But that's different from the customer relationship and the experience, because then what matters is who the real customer is.
It's really more about reputation, I would think.
Yes, it is a lot to
the
that.
customer relationship leads directly to people speaking well of you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And these days, that customers just don't really trust advertising. I mean, we have study after study that shows that. And in fact, the customers not only trust the ratings of their friends more than they trust advertising, of course, but they trust the ratings of total strangers. And many customers today will go onto the websites and they'll get the comments and the ratings of total strangers, and then they'll go out and decide what to buy. And so I think that we're really faced with an era in which social media requires something different of companies from what we've been living with for a long, long time. And what it requires of us really is, if you're living in an era in which customers all talk to each other, they believe what each other says, and what they say about us is more important than what we say about ourselves, and they reveal everything that they find out about us. So if we treat them well, they report it to everybody. If we don't treat them so well, they report it to everybody. Then, gosh, all of a sudden, in that age of transparency, then we don't really have control over what's said about us all the time. All that we have control over is whether or not we do a good job so that what's said about us is more likely to be good.
Terrific. What innovations can we look forward to in customer experience management?
Well, the one that we've actually been looking for 20 years that's still not perfect anywhere, but is coming now in some ways a little faster, is really going to be, what's in it for me as a customer? What is it that I'm looking for that right now I'd be willing to pay for, but I can't get from anybody for any price? For me personally, I just want to be able to hand somebody a crisp €50 bill and then get the overhead bin over my seat in the airplane. It's reserved for me, and I can't get that from anybody right now. I know, me too. So you could, and each of us has a list like that of things we'd be willing to pay for, but that nobody will offer us because it doesn't work into their systems. It doesn't fit into the way they have done business for a long time. And so the ability of companies to start thinking outside their own systems. One or two things will happen. If they don't decide to break their own rules, then some upstart company will break the rules for them. And a perfect example of that is poor Blockbuster, who decided we're going to put all the movies in a store, and then people will come and then they'll rent them, and then we'll charge them late fees when they don't get them back at exactly the right time, and they'll hate that, but that's okay. We don't care. And of course they're closing down the last of their stores this week. So that's it. Netflix comes along, they say, different business model altogether. No late fees. You just pay us a monthly fee, rent out movies as much as you want. We'll go to streaming eventually. Completely different business model that works not just for the company, but also for the customer. And Blockbuster could have done it, just couldn't get outside their own box. Netflix won the day. So I think we see that in industry after industry. And that's the kind of thing that keeps me awake at night, is watching this stuff. Who watches football? Who watches the sports? I watch this stuff.
I can believe it. Education is crucial in all of this. And my last question, as president and founder of an institute that has always specialized in customer experience management, how do you see the state of education in those techniques? Are they finally being taught properly in business schools? Do you only find it done well in specialized institutes? You travel all around the world. What's your view of education?
Well, first of all, congratulations for the institute, because it's really outstanding, and I think there are so many companies that will be very lucky to get the graduates and the students who've been working within the institute, and so congratulations on that. But also, I think it depends a lot on the institution, on the academic group itself. I think that what we're seeing is that a lot of academic organizations are starting to go back to a more generalized kind of education. And in some ways that's good, because then students will be able to get more on-the-job training through first their internships and then their jobs. But at the same time, I think that it's going to be very, very important for this idea of customer centricity to permeate everything about the education, because it has to permeate everything about the reality of the businesses that we see. Every now and then I get out there sort of in the real world and I meet the leaders of companies that don't put customers first, and I just think these poor people, they just don't realize they may as well just start digging their own graves, because they just don't have a chance. And I was in one a few years ago, and I remember this guy was a cable operator, and we started talking about customer centricity, and one of his marketing guys had brought me in, and he after about 10 or 15 minutes, he glazed over. He says, "I don't think you understand our business. We're a monopoly. We don't need no stinking customer satisfaction." I said, "Thank you very much," and I left. And of course, he's gone out of business, and that's the end of that, and you just kind of feel sorry for them. But I think that what we will see is more and more students who learn all the fundamentals of business and methodologies and so forth. And then I think that the best of them will also have a professor who uses our textbook, that's Managing Customer Relationships. I'm sorry, I had to say it. And then those students will have, I think, an advantage in trying to figure out how to start building those best customer experiences, because those customer experiences inside trusting relationships are the only way that we're going to see companies really thrive in a world in which there's a competitor who's extremely trustable. And in that era, what are you going to do except decide that to remain competitive, you're going to have to offer top-notch, trustable relationships and great customer experience.
Terrific, Martha. Thank you so much for spending
Pleasure.
time with us, and enjoy the rest of your time in Spain.
Thank you so much.